Hi, I'm Bill Mould. This is the second of two trailers intended to give you a sense of how comprehensive my new video, Derailleurs In Depth, is in its nearly 2 hours of content. This is the arm of the derailleur hanger alignment tool, and there's a little rod here that I can use to move in and out to measure how far the arm is from the rim. I use this rod here as a way to measure whether the derailleur hanger is equidistant all the way around the rim. If it's not, then I use the arm of the derailleur hanger alignment tool to bend the derailleur hanger either in or out. Now it's important that the B screw of the rear derailleur sit right down on this little flat spot here of the derailleur hanger. So I'm going to take my derailleur and I'm going to rotate it like this, hold it in my hand, and then I can position the bolt here to go into the derailleur hanger such that the B screw will be above that little flat place that I just showed you. This is a board I've made up, a mock-up, so I can use this to demo chain wear measurements. This here is a new chain. This is a partially worn chain. Now if we start using the roll-off tool, I put the heel of the tool in the new chain, and then I see how far the other end drops down. And you see that it doesn't drop down. It sits up nice and high like that, and that means that the chain is not at all worn. If I go to the partially worn chain, you'll see that this will fall in a little bit further. See, that versus that. So this chain here is certainly more worn than the first one, but not completely worn. Now let's look at a close-up of some of the teeth on the worn chain ring. And when we do, we see not only that the teeth have become worn, but they've developed little hooks. Just pull the barrel adjuster up and put a drop of light oil on the threads. I recommend also putting a drop of oil between this metal part of the barrel adjuster and the ferrule that goes into the barrel adjuster. We do that so that we can turn the barrel adjuster either direction without the cable and the ferrule twisting with it. Very often that's caused by too much friction between the cable and the cable housing. When I shift inward, I have the considerable strength of my wrist that I can use to overcome friction between the cable and the housing. So I have no difficulty shifting like this. But when I release my cable this way, then the spring inside the derailleur, which you can see in this picture from the back, has to be able to pull the cable all the way back through the housing in order for the derailleur to be able to move back out to shift into the outer cogs. Your wrist is stronger than that spring and therefore can more easily overcome any friction in the cable system. If I had two fewer links in this chain, or maybe even one, then instead of having that double bend, the derailleur would be sticking straight out like that, which does not have the double bend. That's a catastrophe because that means that the chain is not long enough to go through the gears, and you will break your rear derailleur, and maybe more. The parallelogram is what causes the guide pulley to move down and across at the same time. So with each click of the shifter, I either wind up or release a discrete amount of cable, and that causes discrete horizontal and vertical movements of the guide pulley. The guide pulley moves along this line here, and you can think of each click of the shifter as representing a horizontal and a vertical movement, so that the guide pulley moves along this path as you click the shifter. If I then replace my derailleur with one made by the Shift Great Derailleur Company, then they won't necessarily speak the same language, and I may suffer a little bit in the accuracy of the shifting. The Shift Great derailleur would probably work great with the Shift Great shifter, but with the Shimano shifter, the guide pulley is sent along a different path, like this. And you can see that some of the time the guide pulley will line up with gears, some of the time it won't.